I gave my unemployed stepbrother $18,000 and a second chance. He gave me a headache, a stomach ulcer, and a strong case for a restraining order. It all started on Thanksgiving. After years of radio silence, I showed up at my mom Marla and stepdad Don's house with two things: a fat check and a half-hearted smile. I had on an old sweater from Old Navy, and the kind of professional calm you learn when you've spent the last few years clawing your way through college and into a banking job you don't hate. It was the first time I'd been home since I left at 18. I thought maybe, just maybe, my success would finally earn me a seat at the table, figuratively of course. Literally, I was stuck on the broken bar stool at the corner of the kitchen island. Still the outsider. Colton, my stepbrother, looked exactly like he did in high school. Same smug grin. Same stained hoodie. The only thing new was the beer belly. Marla greeted me with a Botox-tight smile, and Don gave me one of those nods that says, "I tolerate your existence." It was cozy. We sat in the living room, pretending to be a family. I made the mistake of asking Colton how work was going. He laughed, said, "You mean how unemployment's going?" Apparently, he got fired from his supervisor job at McDonald's and hadn't worked since. I took the opportunity to extend the olive branch, told him about an opening at my bank. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable, decent pay, benefits, a real shot. "Oh, look at me," Colton mocked. "I get paid to wear a tie and press buttons." Don laughed like it was the funniest thing he'd heard since Clinton played the sax on late-night TV. Marla smiled behind her wine glass. I took a breath, swallowed my pride, and kept talking. Colton kept interrupting. Desk monkey. Spreadsheet robot. Numbers nerd. You know, real adult stuff. I looked at him. Really looked. The guy hadn't grown up at all. Still throwing tantrums in adult packaging. So I scratched the job offer, reached into my coat pocket, and handed him a check for $18,000. Clean. No strings, just a lifeline. He stared at it like it was Monopoly money. "Bet your dead daddy's real proud you turned out to be a money parasite, huh?" And that was it. The moment the temperature in my blood hit boiling, I stood up, fists clenched, jaw tight. He ran to the bathroom and locked the door like we were 5 years old. I walked up to it, calm now, with the kind of steady rage you only develop after years of emotional gymnastics. "Hey, Colton, that job I was going to offer you?" Starting salary was $45,000. Silence. "But if you'd rather rot in this house while beating your meat to Instagram models, be my guest." Still silence. I left. I didn't take back the check. Part of me hoped he'd do something smart with it. Spoiler alert. He did not. Instead, he decided to use that check, and whatever scraps of self-respect he had left, to try and ruin my life. It started small. Prank calls at work. Email subscriptions to weird sites. Then it got darker. Flyers around my condo claiming I ran an illegal business. Packages I didn't order, COD. My car got keyed. My neighbors side-eyed me like I was the villain in a Netflix docuseries. Bateau. I knew it was him. The kicker? He somehow got my address. And I remembered exactly how. Marla had asked Ford the previous Christmas to send a card. She never sent a card. But she did send Colton. Things hit the fan when HR called. Apparently, someone claiming to be my stepbrother told them I was having a mental health crisis. My boss called me personally to check in, thank God, or that could have nuked my career. Monsis. That's when I knew. No more playing defense. Time to end Colton's little crusade, before he took things too far. Or, knowing him, before he took himself down with me. I don't know what snapped first, Colton's grip on reality or my patience. But by the second week of weird packages and reputation-smearing flyers, I realized I couldn't just ignore it anymore. This wasn't some petty sibling spat. This was war. So I did what any self-respecting adult would do. I called Harper. Harper's the kind of friend who owns multiple external hard drives and speaks in cybersecurity metaphors. She showed up that night with Thai food, a laptop, and a gleam in her eye like we were prepping for a spy mission. "First," she said, plugging into my Wi-Fi, "we go digital lockdown." By the time she left, I had new passwords, two-factor authentication, a VPN, and a motion-detecting camera set up outside my condo. We even put fraud alerts on my credit. I felt like I should have been issued a cape, but I still needed to know exactly what Colton was up to. I had a hunch, and it stank like desperation and stale beer. So I made the drive back to my hometown. Didn't tell Marla. Didn't call ahead. Just parked 3 blocks from their house and waited. Ivid. And sure enough, there he was. Colton, trudging out the front door like an angry raccoon in human clothes. He hitched up his sweatpants, lit a cigarette, and wandered off down the street. I followed, ducking behind hedges like I was in a budget spy film. He didn't go far, just to the corner store for smokes and a six-pack. Then he did something weird. He didn't go back in the house. Fatati. He circled around to the backyard and slipped into the old shed. The one nobody used. The one that, as far as I knew, still had a broken lawnmower and some expired fertilizer. Except it didn't. The next morning, after Marla and Dawn left for their traditional diner breakfast, I picked the lock on that shed. Don't look at me like that. YouTube has tutorials for everything. Inside was what I can only describe as a cross between a conspiracy theorist's lair and a teenager's science fair project. There were printouts of my LinkedIn profile, old photos from Facebook, and I kid you not, a literal map with my apartment circled in red. And right in the center, taped to the wall like a mission statement, was a notebook titled Operation Payback. Classy. I took photos of everything. His plan included gems like sending pizzas to my place at 3 a.m., posing as me on Craigslist, even reaching out to my coworkers. This wasn't just annoying anymore. This was coordinated harassment. Tauro. And Colton? He was one bad day away from switching out the Red Bull for something way worse. Tauro. I left everything as I found it. Locked the shed. Drove straight back home. And for the first time in my life, I didn't just feel angry at Colton. I felt scared. Scared enough to start planning not just my defense, but his downfall. Because whatever Colton thought he was playing at, he was about to learn something the hard way. I don't bluff. I build cases. I didn't want to just survive Colton's war. I wanted to end it. But if I'd learned anything from watching my family implode growing up, it was this. Confrontation without strategy is just chaos with volume. So I got strategic. First step, bait. I set up a burner email and sent an anonymous message to his old high school friend, someone I knew he still talked to based on social media lurking. Just a breadcrumb. Heard Colton's still in business, might be just what I need. It wasn't much, but it was enough to light the fuse. Second step, surveillance. I upgraded the camera outside my door, added one to my car dashboard, and asked Harper to help me install software that would alert me if anything suspicious came from his IP address. Colton was clever in that greasy, late-night infomercial way. He wouldn't come at me head-on again. He'd try to slither back in through some passive-aggressive digital window. And then, silence. For a week, nothing happened. No fake subscriptions, no weird calls, no 3 a.m. pizza deliveries. I almost started to believe he'd backed off. That maybe finding the shed had scared him straight. Mayhem pizza call from building security shattered the illusion. Ms. Shaw, someone was here this afternoon trying to leave a delivery for you, the guard said. A guy. Said he was your cousin. I felt the air change. Did he get inside? Not exactly. But he did leave something behind. A box. On my welcome mat. Taped shut with duct tape and smelling faintly of vinegar. Inside? Raw fish. Just raw, unwrapped fish. Jen's hairpaw. The message was clear. I see you. But here's the thing. Colton wasn't the only one watching. The camera had caught his face, plain as day. Hoodie, smug smirk, and all. I sent the footage straight to Harper. That night, Harper and I sat in my living room, both staring at the paused frame of Colton mid-smirk. He's escalating, she said flatly. What's your next move? I didn't answer right away. I was watching Colton's face, frozen in time, like he was daring me to respond. My next move was simple. Record everything. Build the file. And then walk into a lawyer's office or a police station with a full-color binder titled, "Here's why this man should stay 500 feet away from me at all times." But before that, I needed to know how far he'd go. So I baited the hook one last time, called from a burner phone, disguised my voice, and hinted at wanting to buy something from him. Something shady. He took the bait. We planned to meet. I waited across the street with a camera, recording as he paced and ranted outside the shed after I didn't show. And then I heard it. A click. A metallic, unmistakable click. He had a gun. Pursery sow. I didn't see it, but I heard it. I felt it. The change in his voice, the crackle of madness. Purseries. And just like that, it wasn't a game anymore. Purseries. It was time to end it. For real. After hearing that click, clean, metallic, final, I froze. It could have been anything. A staple gun, a drawer latch. Maybe even a broken piece of lawn equipment in that creepy little shed. But my gut didn't buy it. Not when it came right after Colton said, she won't see it coming. I played the recording back a dozen times, each listen chipping away at my hope that I was imagining it. I wasn't. Harper didn't think so either. "That's a gun," she said flatly. "Or something he wants you to think is a gun." Either way, the message was clear. This wasn't just revenge, this was a threat. A deeply personal, deeply unhinged one. Harper was adamant. "You need to report this." "I know," I said, and I did. But going to the police meant blowing everything up. No more quiet investigations, no more control. Just messy questions and family fallout. That was the thing about toxic families. Calling out the bad behavior often made you the villain. I wasn't sure I was ready to become the bad guy in Marla's eyes. Again. I put off calling the cops for one day. Then two, rationalizing, planning, telling myself I needed to collect more evidence first. That's when the call came in. "Miss Shaw," said the voice from the front desk of my condo. "Your stepbrother is here." The sentence sent ice through my veins. I don't have a stepbrother in town. Tall guy, heavy-set, said he was house-sitting. He had a key. My mouth went dry. What did he do? Well, he signed for a perishable delivery. And now your unit smells, well, fishy? Not metaphorically. Literally. I got back to my place that night and nearly passed out from the stench. He'd left a rotting fish on the counter. The kind of thing you can't clean with bleach. You have to replace drywall. And he'd had a key. I hadn't given him one. So that meant Marla did. Or Don. Or he'd copied it when they weren't looking. Either way, it crossed a line so far it looked like a speck in the rear view. Heft cough. The police were called. A report was filed. They were moderately sympathetic. Said there wasn't much they could do unless I filed for a restraining order or he caused actual damage. Did attempted psychological warfare not count as damage? High size siege. I called Harper. She drove over with gloves, garbage bags, and a face mask. We scrubbed. We lit candles. We opened every window. Nothing helped. The fish was gone, but the message lingered. "You're not safe. I can get in." That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling and tried to decide what scared me more. Colton with a weapon, or Marla still defending him. The next morning, I started making calls. DMV. Credit bureaus. An old college friend who worked in law. I compiled every shred of evidence I had. The shed photos, the video footage, the prank calls, the fish delivery. I printed it all out, labeled it, color-coded it. Then I called Marla. "Hey, Mom," I said. My voice ice-wrapped steel. "We need to talk, in person." Long pause. "Okay," she said softly. "Don will be at work tomorrow morning." "Good. I'd rather talk to you first." She didn't ask why. Maybe she already knew. Maybe she'd been waiting for this conversation longer than I had. Either way, the reckoning was coming. And this time, I wasn't coming to ask for understanding. I was coming to deliver consequences. The next morning, I showed up to my childhood home in a crisp blouse, slacks, and nerves of steel. Marla opened the door looking like she'd tried too hard. Hair freshly styled, makeup a little too heavy, house suspiciously spotless. Something about that made me sadder than I expected. House Ganassi. We sat on opposite ends of the couch like strangers at a job interview. I didn't waste time. House Ganassi. "Colton has been harassing me," I said, pulling out the file folder and setting it on the coffee table. "And I have proof," she blinked. "Riley, he's been going through a hard." I opened the folder. Printouts, photos, screenshots, video stills. The whole Operation Payback binder, condensed and weaponized. "This is what he's been doing while you were defending him. This is why I changed my locks. This is why I called the police." Marla's hand fluttered toward her mouth. "I didn't know. You didn't ask." She sat back like I'd slapped her. I kept going. "I'm filing for a restraining order. Today, he is not allowed near me, my home, or my work. If he violates it, he will be arrested." Marla's voice cracked. "He's my son. And I'm your daughter," I said, quieter now. "But you've never protected me from him. So now I'm doing it myself." The front door slammed. We both flinched. Colton. He marched into the living room like a storm in a hoodie. His eyes landed on the folder, the evidence, my composed posture. And something in him snapped. "What the hell is this?" he growled. I stood slowly, keeping the coffee table between us. "This is your little hobby coming to an end." He looked at Marla, then at me. "You think you can turn her against me? After everything? You did that yourself, Colton. You're such a smug little parasite, always have been. With your job and your attitude. I offered you a job, I cut in. You threw it in my face. I gave you $18,000. You used it to launch a harassment campaign. He stepped forward. I stepped back. His hand drifted to his pocket. Don't, I said. What, you think I'm gonna hurt you? He sneered. You think I'm that guy now? I looked at Marla. Tell him to stop. She was frozen, silent, a statue in a well-decorated mausoleum. Prove it was me, Colton said. You think your little binder means anything? I have video. Audio. Witnesses. Try me. He looked down at his hand. He wasn't holding a gun. Just his car keys. But the tension hung in the air like smoke. A stacco. Then he threw the keys onto the floor. A stacco, cruo. This is insane, he muttered. I'm done. And just like that, he was out the door. I didn't relax. Not yet. Not until I heard his car start and drive off. Then I turned back to Marla. She looked older. Deflated. I didn't know, she whispered. You didn't want to. Silence. I'll file the order today, I said. If he contacts me again, about anything, I'm pressing charges. She just nodded. Quiet, defeated. And for the first time, I walked out of that house feeling like I wasn't the one running away. It was 2 days later when my phone rang at work. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in my gut told me to pick up. Hello? Hello? Hi, is this Riley Shaw? A woman asked. This is Patricia from Westlake Medical. We have your stepbrother, Colton James, here in the emergency room. You're listed as his emergency contact. Every instinct told me it was a setup. Is he okay? I asked, already pulling up my coat. He's stable, hit by a car. Looks like he was crossing the highway on foot. Minor concussion, fractured arm. Was it intentional? I can't say. But he asked for you. Against my better judgment, I told my manager I had a family emergency and drove straight there. Not out of love. Not even sympathy. Just a knotted sense of duty. I couldn't shake. When I got to the hospital, I didn't even have to ask which bed was his. The hallway nurse nodded at curtain 3. Colton looked awful. Pale. Arm in a sling. Scraped up face. But alive. You came, he said, blinking like the fluorescent lights hurt. I stood at the foot of the bed. What happened? Was going to a buddy's place. Took a shortcut. Guess I wasn't watching the road. That felt like a lie. Or a cover. But I didn't push. The nurse came in and asked about insurance. Colton looked like a kid caught stealing gum. I don't have any, he muttered. She looked at me. I sighed. I'll handle the paperwork. She left us alone. You don't have to do that, Colton mumbled. I know. Silence settled in. It wasn't peaceful. Just necessary. Why'd you come? He asked. I thought about it. Because despite everything, you're still family. And I needed to know if this was real, not some stunt. He almost smiled. It's real. Good. I leaned in slightly. This is it though, Colton. My last act of goodwill. If you come near my life again, I'll bury you in legal filings. Understand? He nodded. Yeah, I get it. I started to walk away, but he spoke again. Riley, I'm sorry for what I said at Thanksgiving about your dad. That was low. It wasn't a full apology, but it was the closest thing I'd ever gotten. I gave him a small nod. Don't make me regret this. As I left the ER, I felt hollow. I wasn't sure if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life, or finally reached the end of a very long, very toxic chapter. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was running from Colton's chaos. I felt like I'd stepped out of it. Whatever came next, it would be his move. Weeks passed. No emails. No fake deliveries. No Colton. Ansatz. At first, I didn't trust it. Kept my defenses up, waiting for the next swing. But it never came. Instead, I got a text. From Colton. Got a job. 2, actually. Warehouse in the morning. Gas station at night. Don't worry. I won't come by. Just figured you should know. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing, Good, keep it up. He didn't reply. But he didn't vanish either. A month later, I saw him. On purpose. Coffee at a public place. My idea. He looked different. Worn down, sure, but steadier. Less bravado. More quiet. Real. I owe you a lot, he said, not touching his latte. You owe yourself more. We talked. About jobs. Rent. Life. I didn't forgive him. not fully. But I listened. And for the first time, he didn't use it against me. Another month. Another coffee. This time, he had good news. Got promoted. Warehouse led. And I'm quitting the night job, enrolling for my GED. I blinked. Seriously? He nodded. Turns out I'm not completely hopeless. You never were, just lazy and mean. He laughed. Fair. More weeks. More progress. He paid back $100. Then another. Small steps. Big meaning. One day he handed me an envelope. Inside. A check. $2,000. Hospital money. He said. I'll get the rest. I almost refused it. But I knew he needed me to accept it more than I needed the cash. Up. Marla called too. Said thank you. Apologized for years of denial. Even mentioned therapy. Up. I want us to be better, she said. Then be better, I replied. And slowly, she did. Colton got his GED. Got a job at a branch of my bank. No help from me, but I gave a quiet nod when asked about him. He earned it. 1 year after Thanksgiving, we sat across from each other again. Same coffee shop. You ever think about how messed up that holiday was? He asked. All the time. I was awful to you. Yeah, I said. But you're not that guy anymore. I don't want to be. Then don't be. He smiled. And this time, it didn't feel like a trick. Moo. I didn't get my old family back. I never had one. But I built something better. Boundaries, respect, and the quiet miracle of a second chance. 1 cup of coffee at a time.